with providing some services for students in that K-4 population, more inclusive services. We could hit that learning loss.
Okay, Gregor, can you hear us?
We can hear him.
Can't hear you,
You
Gregor.
have him muted.
Now I'm unmuted. Now can you hear me?
Okay, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, no problem.
That's what I was checking on. That's where we had problems. Cross my feet and throw the toes and everything else. Okay, Mr. Chairman, we are recording and we are going right now, Mr. Chairman, so.
I just let everybody go, just don't overwhelm me at one time.
Mr. Chairman, I have asked Gregor Smee to be here. He's the architect that has been employed in the County School System for a number of years. And Gregor is here to ask questions or answer questions that you have. So I brought him here mainly because I know you probably wanted to look at budget and some number figures in regard to this, but also a timeline for an indication of what you would like to do from here forward. So Gregor is here to ask questions or answer questions and hopefully give you some answers in regard to starting the construction on the wing at Woodbury Grammar and possible construction of the middle school. So turning it back to you, Mr. Chairman, on the questions. Or Gregor, you'd like to say anything right off the bat in regard to questions from the board?
Well, we've looked at laying out a middle school. We've looked at adding classroom wing at the bottom of Woodbury Grammar site, and we've even come back and added additional classrooms on the ends of two of the other existing wings on the Woodbury Grammar building. And in discussing how you might move into those phases, if they were completed in time, we thought the best possible scenario would be that we complete the Woodbury Grammar additions in time for them to be used in fall of 2022. And if we get started early enough, we could complete the middle school so that it could be used for fall of 2023. So that would leave you with just the 1 year where you were trying to temporarily place classrooms. But I think that's the best situation that we could do given the time that we have now in front of us.
You don't think you can, if we got the money and the go ahead, you couldn't start on the middle school and the wing at the same time?
Well, I think the Woodbury Grammar School wings will take somewhere between 8 months to a year for completion, but that middle school will take a good 18 months to build.
So if you got 8 months on the wing and you're working on the middle school at the same time, it only leaves you 10 months, right?
Well, we would start right away on the Woodbury additions, hoping to have those out to bid in May, and starting construction by the time you get your bids in and work out all your contracts, starting construction maybe in August. So those could be finished early the following summer, enough time that you'd very comfortably get in. But we would be finishing up our work on those documents there in May and immediately rolling into the middle school drawings and specifications, which being a complicated, a more complicated and larger project would take us longer to complete. So I would imagine we'll need at least 4 or 5 months before that goes out to bid, putting that, in August or September to bid. And so if we're really going to give a year and a half to complete that from the time that we have a contract on it, that's about the pace that it would take. We would take 3 months or so to get the documents ready for bidding for the addition, and then about 5 months to get the documents ready for the middle school.
5 months on each of them.
takes 5 months to get documentation. We're looking at 23 months. It's 2 years.
Gregor, you start construction simultaneously, correct? If or not, you'll be a little bit delayed there because of the bid coming in May and then getting starting, you're saying in August on the additions. And then after that, then you would get into the bids in August, and you're saying probably start construction then. You're looking what? October, November, into the winter, starting construction then?
Yeah, we were looking at October. Yeah, there's about a 5-month delay from the start of one project to the start of the other. And I think you might have an issue, especially if your low bidder is not a very large contractor. They may have a little trouble handling both at once if you literally started them at the same time. If you stagger them by 5 months, you might be able to have that same bidder do them, because he'd have crews that's, are doing the concrete work and so forth are no longer doing that on the first project and be put onto the second project. Staggering them would help a contractor that's not, say, a large Nashville contractor. If it's somebody smaller, more local, they can handle it better if there is a staggered timeline.
I don't know, guys. I've been in construction half my life, and I've met timelines, and I'm saying we're working on the yards in Nashville, the biggest hotels there are right now. They went up in a year. You can't tell me we can't build a school and a wing in 18 months to do it. You might not have a local contractor, but if you get the right contractor and put a timeline, it can be done.
Oh, I would agree. But
I do
what
it.
compared the price of the local contractor against the price of bigger city contractors with a lot of manpower, it's about a 20% increase in cost per square foot.
But then you get what you pay for.
Well, it's true. It's
Yeah.
true. But
And it's nothing against smaller contractors, but you put a smaller contractor that's used to doing houses on a school or a commercial site, I mean, that makes a difference, guys.
yeah, there's a difference between $192 a square foot and $225 a square foot. And those were the two estimates I got when I had a large contractor give me a price per square foot and a smaller contractor give me a price per square foot. If you've got the muscle, you're right. There's no reason you can't get that done.
We probably need the bidder to tell us what he can do, what he can't do.
And really on your deals, they would have to, you put what you want and that's what they're gonna bid on.
I'm talking about timeline. You talking about timeline?
Yeah.
'Cause
you
I'm
put the
comfortable-
timeline in the bid.
I'm comfortable with, if we start one fall and you got another fall and then another fall. Before that fall, before our school starts, we need to be done with that final project. I don't want to see us trying to move in the middle of the winter into a middle school. That's just my opinion. I think the elementary, you're right, we're looking at it, we should have that done by the following year, school year.
Yeah, if you look at the complication factor, the additions at Woodbury Grammar are pretty straightforward. They really are just classrooms and bathrooms, and it's a single-story structure.
Right.
If you look at the middle school, it's a 2-story structure, and you've got your cafeteria, and you've got your gymnasium, and you've got your art room and your band room, and you've got all the more difficult things to manage on a much larger project. And even the larger firms that I've worked with wouldn't take on an 80,000 or 90,000 square foot building and not tell you that it would take about 18 months.
Yeah, so I'm comfortable, 2 years, I'm comfortable with 2 years. Somebody can do it in 2 years.
Both of them be done in 2 years.
Yeah.
Or you're talking both of them be done in 3 years?
No. 2 years from this fall. Beginning of, I'll say fall, beginning of school. We'd like to have it done by beginning, you know.
For 2023.
What was the total cost in addition for Woodbury Grammar? 2 point.
Gregor, the total cost on Woodbury Grammar was, with the additions,
With all 12 classrooms?
yes, sir, all 12 classrooms.
Give me just a second here. I do have that email.
2.3 is somewhere in that neighborhood. It's what I was.
We had 2 different estimates, didn't we?
I think
He had one with just 6 classrooms on that addition and one with 8. We went with 8.
Last one was
And then adding an additional 4 on the eastern wing. So that was in your,
Right.
Your 8 classroom wing was 1.84 million at $192 a square foot. And then your 4 additional classrooms were 910,000 for same price. And so the total for all 12 was 2,758,000.
And we're gonna use part of that ESSER money for that, right?
correct, yes, ma'am. And ESSER 3.0, we'll see what transpires there with ESSER 3.0. And Gregor, on the potential middle school, and I know this is ballpark at this point,
Sure.
saying at Cannon County Middle School, you're saying there with using the amount of square feet that we have, what was the total on the square feet when we added those additional classrooms to get 5th grade in there?
Yeah, I ran those numbers. You added about 10,000 square feet to get 5th grade in there. So we had it laid out at 76,000 square feet. So that takes you up to 86,000 square feet.
You got the number in front of you, Greg, just, I could calculate back to 92, what did it end up being for that 86? What was the total on 86 to price?
Oh, well, at this point, I'd be using 225 as my number. We may come in under, but 225 is what I was told is a safe number when I looked at one of the larger firms locally.
That was 225,
Yep.
So what is that? So I got a
right?
calculator.
Because it's brand new, because you're looking at brand new structure instead of adding on.
And that was
86
for a
body
larger
times that.
farm?
220.
That was a larger firm, Gregor, is that correct?
Yeah, that's Johnson Gallion here in Knoxville. They do schools and other very large churches. They do, $40, $50 million projects. And I wanted somebody with some muscle to tell me if I was in the right ballpark. So that's who I went to. So you've got your gymnasium, you've got your kitchen, you've got your cafeteria, your multi-purpose room, you've got your admin wing. And so it's a much more complicated project than just putting on a classroom wing.
350,000. At the 225 level.
Your square footage is not far off. Just if you were trying to conceptualize it, your square footage is not far off from Woodbury Grammar. When we designed that was 80,000 square feet. And so we're talking about a school of 86,000 square feet. It's not very different as far as the total square footage.
It really depend on your bid, wouldn't it, Gregor? Because if you figured it at 192, which I know that's a low ball figure, that's 16.5 there.
Yeah. That's makes a lot of, when you're talking about numbers that big of square feet, that difference between 192 and 225 is a big number.
225.
86. We added those other classrooms, we added 10,000 more feet.
A project of that size will bring in a lot of, I hope it'll bring in a lot of the big boys from Nashville, and there'll be some really good competition.
Correct.
How many square feet we had on Woodbury?
How many square feet are we adding on to Woodbury? I mean, we added the 12 classrooms. That's in that last email.
Yeah, let's see. You have to add this together. It was the 8 classroom wing addition was 9,600 square feet, and the 4 classroom addition was 4,700 square feet. So what's that? 14,300
Got 14.3. And times that by 192. $2.745.
So basically, hopefully, that could be paid off if it's built. And all we gotta worry about the middle school.
If you used all the new ESSER money and if it was 3.2, basically double, you'd have $1,692,000 left over to go toward the middle school.
But bidding would be the, where your proof would be in the pudding right there, is on the bidding process. And big projects like
Somebody
that.
slow and need to work, and they give us a good price.
Good luck with that.
But the problem is, everybody in the world's building, right? Everybody with this extra money, there's a lot of school projects going on right now too.
So Hereford got their
That
last good
concerns,
job.
that would concern me, but you get into that with, like what Gregor said, though, you get it with the big boys and then they'll say, okay.
Is this 192 a square foot? Does that include security and stuff as well?
No, typically your security system is bought and paid for and installed by the school. We usually run the conduit for it and provide the power for it, but you usually hire a security company separately to actually install and provide the security system.
The existing ones, what you'd have to do.
I mean, I just hate to see you build a new middle school or not, if you don't plan for new ways to save money, energy efficient
Right.
systems to put in there. I mean, if you ain't careful, you'll build a middle school that's already out of date.
Yeah, we'd want to work with your IT guys, and of course, we'd want to bring you different options for what kind of systems go in the building, so that we can talk about, is it worth spending more money up front for a more efficient system that has a 10-year payback? We would run all that with you.
Yeah, we've talked about that before, and I do not want any, I don't want to cheapen the project at all. I want this thing to last us 40 years.
And we want it ready to do what we intend to do. So we have to have rooms ready for CTE classes.
Ready to move. Absolutely.
I mean, in my opinion, if we're gonna build the middle school and commit to it and even add on in the new part, I think you ought to have it where you can stand into each classroom where everybody can't just walk into it in between periods. I believe you ought to, teachers, principals ought to have badges to scan into the school so you know who's coming and going in and out of that school building.
I have an
Bonnie, you want to say
estimate.
something on that?
I have an estimate where we had a company come in for all the schools and what it would cost to do that.
Mhm.
You're looking at a school like the high school, it's over $100,000, but we could use part of safety grant money that we get each year to do that possibly could fund about a third of that cost for the middle school.
Go to, same kind of-
It's Bank Pack that did the work.
And I would do it, since you're on a square anyway, on that campus, Mr. Chairman, you're on that square on that campus, I would get it to where we would have gated security. I mean, we're just like what we have at the high school right now, where that whole campus can be gated off,
Especially where it's located.
right? The whole campus could be gated off.
That's a great idea. One of the challenges we have, we do security for Knox County schools occasionally. And one of the challenges is that you can't put locks on the doors. Everybody has to, in the case of an emergency, get out of an egress door. And all it takes is one student going over and opening the door and letting a stranger in. And it's very hard to control that. And so the gated the idea of gating the entire school campus, as well as a lot of security cameras. You know, the cameras really help you see what's going on where you can't see. And so, if you have doors that you can put on emergency buzzers, so that they're only used in emergency and they set off an alarm when somebody opens them up. If you have the camera as well, then you really can be alerted when somebody gets in the building that shouldn't be in the building. But it's a good problem to study and figure out, and we have to continually be working on it.
And then you have those gates where you can open them in an event of major emergency or whatever. Those gates are open, very similar to what we got, like I said, Cannon County High School with that one. Then you're gonna have probably four gates that and then you open up at your car riders coming in and out. And you have access from Lehman Street on the middle school, and then you would have access from Adams Street like you have right now with Cannon County Elementary.
And those gates, if they're around your yard, they can be on delayed access. So if you needed them to be, because once you're out of the building, you're away from the fire danger. And then if you had a 2-minute delay on that gate, you could have that. So if somebody hit that bar, they still wait 2 minutes. That gives chance for the SRO officer or whoever to get there and see what's going on. But those gates could be on delays just to keep the bad guys from running out as well. Anyway, just all those things you can consider.
And you have 2 SROs, one for each one of those campuses.
We have 2 SROs now.
We'd have to hire additional SRO, but we're waiting for
We have
another.
one at the high school.
That's correct.
One that goes to grammar school, we have it.
Right, but we have 3 SROs. If we have one for middle school and one for
Yeah,
elementary.
but you have one campus, you have an SRO.
That's true.
at each
That's true.
campus.
That's true. I'd rather have 3 of those too. Right, Bonnie?
Three.
I know,
It's in the
but I'm
city
just saying.
limits. I'm just saying it's in the city limits.
Mhm. Anybody been trying on that SRO grant because of COVID went south and we would have had another one.
I tried to get the city to.
I know, we both have.
My main thing was, if we're gonna build a middle school, I'm just looking, we don't need to take shortcuts.
I agree with you. Absolutely, it has to be done the right way. So it's right.
I mean, it's not just for the kids' education, but I mean, their parents, I mean, their safety's in our hands for 6 hours a day. I just think that's something that needs to be looked into when we're doing the bids, that's all. Just to see what it would cost extra to do it. While you're there and it's new construction, it's a lot easier to build it when it's going up. A lot cheaper to do it when it's going up than to add it later like you would have to like the high school or something.
Well, as I said, we normally put in the power and the conduits and then let the owner install their own. But certainly our electrical engineer designs these security systems. And if you wanted to include it right up front, we could design it right into from the very beginning.
Did it both ways. It's a good idea.
And the most energy efficient, that we could get on the HVACs, because that's what we're battling now. 20 years since Woodbury Grammar, now we're still battling that one. So we want the most energy efficient we can get, Gregor, with the,
It really wouldn't be a bad idea to do a bid out of building automation program. To save you.
Well, the units that they've got nowadays are incredibly efficient compared to what we had 20 years ago. And there's lots of different ways to make them even more efficient. They have systems called energy recovery systems, energy recovery wheels. And because of the requirement of so much fresh air, if you didn't have an energy recovery wheel, you would just be blowing out your cold air and then sucking in the hot air in the summertime, or blowing out your warm air in the winter and then pulling in cold air. So what they do is the air that's going to be exhausted goes through this wheel that can capture the heat. And as the wheel then turns on the other side, as the cold air comes in, it picks up that same heat, so that the energy that would have been lost by just exhausting the air out is picked up on the air coming in. And that's just one of the things they've got. Again, the efficiencies are getting tremendous on these units. But again, you pay for it. If you wanted to go cheap and put in something quick, you could, but it's not gonna last, and it's not gonna be energy efficient. So we'll want to consider all the options and talk them through with you.
Any more questions for her? I guess we're done.
No more questions, Gregor, so thank you for taking your time
Thank you.
there in Knoxville and being with us tonight. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I appreciate you letting me join in. It was a little better than the drive. I appreciate doing it from my home. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
That's the beauty of Zoom. You can be wherever. So what I did want you to get with Gregor, Mr. Chairman, and that's why I brought him in tonight. He's available. They are starting to work on this. Neil's also on there, so if you want to talk with Neil, I see he's on there. I've asked Douglas Jennings to join us. It may not be at 7 o'clock. I've asked Douglas to also join us on looking at some of the budget numbers. Some of you have questions you'd ask. I've researched some of those, and you can see from my this is last year's budget from start to finish in the purple folder. So this is my red budget in the red folder for this year. So you have the figures, the estimations there that Neil is on. So you see some of those that they have created. There's Douglas joining us now. So I think it's Douglas Jennings. Hopefully, and maybe Doug comes up. I think it's Douglas Jennings. So you can see if you've got questions on this that Neil generated for you the other day. I got a copy of that for you. That this was generated as a estimation into the future, a generalized estimation into the future on what we had, and some of you had some particular questions about that. So as we look at the budget process, now that you've told us what you're going to do ESSER-wise with ESSER 2.0, now we will move forward with your GP budget. So you set that, and so we've got that pile, and then the state of Tennessee certainly is giving us monies. For example, the summer program, we will get a certain amount of monies that will not have to come out of GP, although our in-kind with GP will have to be from, in regard to utilities and et cetera, that we're saying that we're doing in-kind as part of ESSER. So ESSER is the big thing coming, like I say, 3.0. We were talked about today, and like I said before we came over, and 20% of that will have to be used on learning loss of the ESSER 2.0. So we know that. The commissioner announced that, 3.0, excuse me, 3.0. 20% of that has to be addressing learning loss. The other 80% could be utilized for multiple purposes, particularly facilities. But facilities are still being under the federal guidelines. Facilities are on it, and it's unprecedented that we get money for facilities. So as you start moving through the GP process and looking at your line items here, then you'll know that this is where we're heading. And then some of the figures I can tell you about it. Douglas can tell you about it, and then Neil can also tell you about it. He's examined this as well as Douglas to move us forward in the process. So you got your revenues, and then you've got your revenue side, and then you've got your expenditure side. And then you've got the BEP that we get so much, certainly from the BEP figures. But roughly, you're gonna still get $2.9 million. Now, hold harmless, the legislature reconvenes this week. So I know there's a lot of chatter about what's the legislature might or might not do. We're thinking we're gonna get more money for transportation for the summer program. That's probably going to be a given. How much? I don't know. There'll be an average, just like they do everything else with the state, and average that. So that transportation cost will be, hopefully will be enough to transport the number of students. We met with principals today and looking at how many students that we're going to be able to serve with the amount of money that we're getting. And servicing income eligible students, those that are economically disadvantaged. And we're working with our cafeteria program, our food service about getting them fed so many times. And then with so many seats that we'll have available for that. But the deal that I guess the question everybody has about some program is how many won't be able to attend. And being that some school systems, it's up to the board on some are requiring and some are not requiring. Our kids have been through a lot, and we continue with, but we need to be addressing that learning loss. And so the state is giving you X amount of dollars for that taking place in the summer program. All right, that money is coming in from the state. The only thing, the high school wasn't covered, and some friends of mine at the General Assembly plan to even address that at White high schools covered. And so that for the next summer, we're hoping to get the high school amounts that would be in there for the high school programs, because that's where we found our biggest failures going about, and then when we're virtual. But you know, the good news about COVID, I'll give you some good news today. Okay, did y'all see the results from Nurse Leslie that I sent to you earlier this afternoon? We've got 10 contacts and 2 active cases. So, and then there are 23 active cases in Cannon County right now, but of COVID. So that is certainly those numbers are skewed because right now that the health department is concentrating on vaccines instead of testing.
Do you know what percentage of our teachers are vaccinated?
I do not, but we can get that for you because that's a private HIPAA.
What? I didn't ask who was.
I know
wanted
the
a
amount
percentage.
of percentage. I
was just
that would be
curious.
touchy because I'd have to go school by school and, office by office to get that information. But I would tell you it's a fairly large percentage. I don't know. Bonnie, we've not done any figuring like that. We've just done estimations.
Okay.
But I would say a good percentage of our teachers have been vaccinated so far. That's the good news.
Everyone that wanted to be has been, right?
I've not heard anybody that has been an educator that has been refused.
Okay.
I had to get on this. I think somebody that we sent word to rapidly because the health department told us that they were trying to hum about an appointment for the second one. And I made rapid sure that person said, get you down to the health department rapidly and get that done. So that's the only hiccup. Bonnie, you know of any other hiccups? I don't think with any of our staff.
I don't, I mean, that's individual, it's not a school thing, so I wouldn't know.
But there's not been any problems whatsoever about getting teachers that would be vaccinated. To answer your question. But that's the good news in regard to COVID. And the good news is you're getting X amount of dollars, that's coming in out of ESSER 3.0. We thought 2.0 was great, but here comes 3.0 that could meet some major needs.
I just think 4.0 and 5.0 would be all right.
Yeah, 4.0, 5.0, or whatever, 9.0. But I brought supervisors here tonight. You saw principals that were with you earlier at the meeting. So we would be glad to help and when you start, but right now, what my suggestion will be, as we got ESSER 2.0, you made a decision. Now we go with that decision. So as you transition over to GP, I know you may have specific questions in regard to GP, especially keeping the funding separately when you go into building programs. You fund that separately, and Douglas can explain that a whole lot better than I can. But you've got that amount of funding that will be separated from what you're doing. Right now, Neil and Douglas can put on mic and probably tell you how much you do have in reserves. But those reserves will be depleted rapidly until we can absorb that savings.
Do we have any more info on what the state's gonna do about the 4% raise for teachers? 'Cause that's,
What I was told by Mary Ann Dursky on a call the other day, and I asked that question to the commissioner, Mr. Chairman. And she was saying, you need to probably go ahead and get $2,000 from 36,000 as the lowest salary to $38,000 as your lowest salary to figure that into the budget. That's what the commissioner told me. Personally, told me.
the next coming school year.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Douglas, can you unmute there a second? On your financial channels, have they said anything about teacher salary, about the increase in teacher salary? We know 4%, but we also said you're going to have to spread that 4% out among all your staff instead of just the BE, that's that instructional portion of the BEP. So Douglas, can you unmute there for a second? Neil, I don't know if you've heard anything from your channels.
Gonna distribute it out over the entire system?
Over the teachers,
Okay.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I got you, Douglas. Have you heard anything on teacher salary yet through your channels?
No, except what the same thing you have heard, and you know what it was last year, and you know what it wound up being. So, I mean, I hope,
The board does not. We've got a new board. The chairman knows, and some in the room knows, but the board members probably don't know. But it started out that the state was going to give us what was like. It was going to go up to 38,000 as the minimum salary. And then when COVID hit, they had that emergency session of the General Assembly, and then they slashed everything, including those salaries. That's what happened. Is that a good summary, Douglas?
there was no increase in the required numbers, but of course we had to meet anyway.
Everybody that had been here 20 years gets an increase.
So I mean, that you don't know what the BEP is going to be. I didn't hear your conversation on ESSER. I don't know if you're going to take any expenses off GP for that or not.
The nurse, they're going to help with the,
No,
but that's not going to be taken off. It's going to
The
be
nurse was paid
added
out
to.
of coordinated school health the other
Correct.
half, so that's not cheap, I mean, that was already there.
That was already, we pretty well just maintained, Douglas. Nothing added, just maintained.
Do we know how much we gave in a raise last year across the board?
I had figured that before, 2 years down the road, I think it was gonna be 500 something thousand.
Yeah, if we do just the raises like that, we were figuring another, what, Douglas, $500-something thousand?
Probably close.
So 250 a year,
No, that's for a year.
500 a year.
That's 500 for a year, correct, Douglas, as we went up?
For every position.
Yeah, it's depend on what the state requirements are. You know, if they jump us up, it can be as much as 5 when you count benefits and everything.
So it was last year, Douglas?
Sir,
You know what it was last year?
it was as low as it could be, and I'm thinking it was around 220 or 30,000. That's my guess. But that was the lowest it could be because there was no change in the salary scale.
Okay.
I am pretty sure because of the additional teacher pay that we're getting for this year, which is like 2.5% or something, that they're going to increase it at least that much next year. They're saying in recurring funds, but that's all up for grabs. You just never know.
And the
That's
two
why-
point, when they say the 4%, that's 4% on the instructional portion of the BEP, is how much that's going up. And Ben can come back, that's when you get those conversations that Ben had with you guys. When you talk about how much you're gonna have to pay more because you've got those non-funded positions of the BEP. And that are certified positions.
And you've got that worksheet from a month or two ago where I showed you where we took the pay scale and compared it to the state pay scale to see where we are. And if there's a change in the state pay scale, you know that it's going to change every step of our pay scale.
So when I guess to simplify it, if it goes from 36 to 38, everybody goes up. Not just your newer teachers,
They're not talking about new funding in the BEP at all, or they are?
4% on the raises with the instructional component of the BEP. Now, they say fully fund the BEP, but you know what that means. I mean, you never get all you want in the BEP. Fully fund means this is what you had last year, this is what we're gonna continue this year and add on to that. Now, how much add on and where, that's the question of the legislature.
Until the state board meets, and that's usually late May, and sets the minimum salary schedule, that's when we can really go to work and figure the salaries and come up with some good numbers.
Every person. That's not on that BEP. I got 100% of that.
I wish that could come earlier.
Earlier.
I really do wish that would come earlier, so, because we have the May 15th deadline for the budget to be to the county commission. Or to the budget committee, of the county commission. Okay, questions for Douglas, and Neil is here also. And as you figure these, you see the figures that are coming in right here on the estimates. There are some estimates. Wade, I think you had a question or two on yours, particularly under Career Ladder program. There was some questions about why it went from like one figure to one figure. And then you had a figure, I could tell you the one under the director of schools is that now that used to be under physical services. We can physical services to just be just the physical services because they went upstairs. That came under me. Clerical then come under the director of schools.
It's not just your.
Correct. That come under, that's where that increase came. Because it come like 14,000, that was just like for mine, and then you turn right around and I've added 2 more clerical personnel there. That's where we had to put them from the last year's budget. So that, you know, I'm not interested in going that much. No, it was when I added 2 more people to that. Because we had to put them, because on physical services, we said last year, we were just going to say under physical services, this is what we're going to pay the finance office. And that needs to be raised up higher. Instead of 104,000, that needs to go up probably additional 10,000 because insurance has gone up. And we added, remember, we had to do that. We had to come in, this chairman's out right now, but we had to add that to that because when they left, we had to add more to it because of the insurance differences between the county insurance and what we pay on our 2 grandfathered employees that are working for the financial management office. So it cost us additional. What was it? Douglas, additional, what, 4,000? Neil, you made
4,000.
additional $4,000. So where it says 104,833 in that line item, contribute to county finance, I would go ahead and add another $4,000 there. I don't know how much insurance is going up. What do you think? What are you hearing, Douglas, on your financial channels on the insurance going up? Did Mary Ann say it was going to be pretty well the same?
Did
Maybe
she
a
say
little bit.
what? Did Mary Ann say what?
on insurance, about how much insurance was going up this time?
We hadn't heard a thing about that.
Okay.
It'll go up, I can guarantee you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But we didn't, Mary Ann was saying maybe 2%, but again, she was estimating at the last meeting that I had with, where she was at, that she said that. But she was estimating probably about 2%, about like we did last year. But with insurance, you don't know until, and that's what others within this thing, when you're trying to figure this, they won't pinpoint figures across the street. You can only do that because of the factor of things that do go up. You get burned quick if you. I think 36 is
I
what,
think 36 is what I have
is
to.
what, we're over the DEP, right? It's
So
saying.
that's a $72,000 increase without insurance. And that's not counting the regular salaries that we're paying 100% out of pocket.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. We're trying to streamline, but not strip us. And Neil and I, we covered that, previous. I know what the number you're gonna tell me right now.
That's without the increase. You got it.
Okay, Neil, you want to say something about y'all's estimate? Everybody's got a copy of this one, this sheet, right? The one that we had estimating into the future.
Yes.
Neil, you want to say anything right that as give the board guidance as they look at that into the future, that budget estimates for 2023, 2024? I mean, we can't already barely forecast for next year, much less, 2 years down the road, but you'd like to say anything about that?
He's good, I think.
There you go, Neil. I see you unmute, Neil, but I'm not hearing you. He's trying. Okay, I can see you, but use sign language, American Sign Language. Douglas, unmute there, and we'll see your comments in regard to the estimation, one that you and Neil did.
It's just an estimate. That's all it is.
Without the increase, it's basically 40,000, 36. That's how much it's gonna be. For non-funded education.
That's why we don't have any money.
There's the seat. Ms. Duggan.
Y'all don't want me to make decisions. I'll make them.
That's without the increase. It's 100% on you too.
But as you go through this, please jot down, how I would have you to do that is to jot down the account numbers as you go through, which account number, and you say, Ms. Curtis, is this, why is this, or why is that? And then jot those questions down, and I will get those to Douglas, that you can see why this has gone up, or that's gone up, or what's the deal on any of this. I'm looking, I think what Wade did the other day. He had some questions about why this went up. Career ladder's one, Douglas, that we'll sit down and look at. Like in 4661, local revenue, we got 15,000, but yet we're forecasting 60. I think career ladder ought to be basically staying the same instead of going, it should go down, in fact, with people retiring. We're not having to pay as much, get as much from the state under career ladder. So that's one that Douglas, Wade had said, Douglas, 46,610. And then there was the medical insurance, about why that unemployment compensation was another one. Because we figured we would have some unemployment with COVID and we didn't have that, or unemployment with non-tenured personnel, we put that in there, and that line item is 71,100, then 210 under unemployment compensation. So that you can look right now, Wade, probably at our last financial statement, you can probably look in that number and see how much we spent out on that one. Again, career ladder for special ed, went like from 1,500 to 3,000. Don't know, we'll have to look at that.
Over this line by line.
One thing I would tell you though, too, board members, if each line item has a story behind it, and then we can go back and look at the story behind it. Like on supplies and materials, we went up and under support services that Bonnie took out of her budget because of ESSER. And we took that out of ESSER and increased it from ESSER. And I know you've already dealt with that with ESSER, but supplies, I mean, we've gone double supplies, triple supplies probably what we have in a regular school year because of COVID. And we think about that too, but then again, in the future, you can look at that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea for us new people.
And we've got supervisors that can go through their entire line items here with you on a line item by line item detail, if you want to do that at one of your next workshops.
That's what I was just asking. I said, I think it would probably benefit us.
They've done this a little bit with you at the beginning of the year, but it's been a long time since September, in my opinion, but.
Douglas, how much is in the reserves right now, do you know?
Okay, Douglas, go ahead.
Did Mary Ann Dursky tell you the other night in your workshop, it was like 3.5?
2.6 is what I think that she had mentioned.
And there's part of that you can't touch, the career ladder reserve you can't touch. Seems like there's one other one. I can't think of it right now.
When did you say it's gonna be on the hold harmless?
Could be any time. I think probably sometime within the next month, that the General Assembly is going to move rapidly on that, on the hold harmless on the BEP. But that is pretty well a given, at least what I'm hearing from most legislatures right now. And I've already spoke to multiple legislators on that.
But how much are we gonna lose if they don't hold it harmless?
Well,
Okay.
then you'll look at the figures on your,
Down about 150.
on that, yeah, 140 students times $7,500, thereabouts. And there is debate in regard to the local portion of that.
That's what I'm talking about.
There is debate about the state holds as harmless, but the local,
They
and,
will.
but,
They can.
well, that's up to the legislature to how they,
Yeah, but if they don't require the local match on that, how much is it per student? I forgot. It was, had it. How much is it? Do you remember?
You got the commissioners here?
Yeah, per student.
I can tell you that from the BEP from the last time. It was about 66 when we lost that last other year, 2.909, 929, but then.
Yeah, it was 2 million now, but that, I guess
Right.
you can figure it out, divided it by student.
That was based on what, 19?
1917 is what that was based upon. On how much.
That helps to divide that.
The IEA pupil per amount was 75.96, and that was based on 1917 with the weighted was around $75,000, I'm sorry, $7,596. But that was the state portion, not the
How
local
much?
portion.
1,512 by
It
that.
might be on the BEP calculator on the comptrollers.
Yeah, they moved that. They've taken that out. There's no more, there's no more calculator, no more. The state board of ed, I think, is taking that over instead of the state comptroller.
226,800.
With those from the county, 226,000.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It was in the neighborhood of $250,000.
You know, it's bad.
Yeah.
That hurt bad. At this point.
But there again, if it's hold harmless under COVID, and you know what they'll tell you though, if the local does that, use your ESSER money. That's what that'll be the go-to thing, is that you use your ESSER 3.0 money for that.
Oh, if there's any way to them
We
to save
can't.
a dollar, they're going to.
We can't, Freddie.
I know you can't.
We're limited on what we do, but we can't.
I know, but that's what they'll say. You've got this amount of money then. But they can't cut you any more than $2.9 million. Y'all know that, unless enrollment goes down. And then they're saying that the legislature is saying you're gonna hold harmless, then you hold harmless. And that's what we've really got to watch in the legislature. So I think the worst case scenario is 250, Derek, is what I would.
Almost, you might say, if you do it at 226,000, if you get held harmless and you lock in the county, takes their money, that's 1.3 million we're gonna lose.
But the state, I think, they're gonna hold that portion. I really believe that. With the governor's budget's sailing through the legislature right now, so I don't think that's gonna, the state portion's gonna be the local portion I'd be worried about.
4% increase.
Yeah.
That's gonna hurt, you know. Budget wise, it's good for our teachers. It's great.
Well, the 4% becomes 2.5, is what literally it becomes. The 4% raise becomes 2.5 because of the portion of the BEP.
There's no way we can local match it, is there? Can't do it.
Wish we're in financial shape where we could do that. And speaking, and one thing that's not been said, and I don't want to dampen the parade here, but is the $15, if minimum wage goes to 15, if it does, then every one of my supervisors just gasped when I said that. But I will tell you, if that happens, then we're going to say, we can't do it locally, the state's going to have to come through.
Well, I mean, that's.
And I'm not saying our folks don't deserve it, they do.
No, they do deserve it, but we,
But if you can't do it, you can't do it.
we can't afford it.
But if we can't afford that, I mean, you can't afford that. That's whether it's ESP or it's title or whoever, special ed aides. But our non-certified folks really deserve a raise, in my opinion. They deserve it and they need it. And but then again, when you look at the financial shape that we're trying to aid here, and you can't, ESSER 3.0 could be utilized for raises. It can be, correct, Ms. Moss?
Yes, sir. It could be 2.0 as well. We can use the stipend.
You're limited when you're reading.
And you got recurring, and that's the cardinal sin, as we all know, in budgeting is using fixed amount of funds for recurring expenditures. So, that's the cardinal sin in budgeting. You know that as well as in your own home's budgets the same way. But like I say, when you go through the line items, if you see something that's glaring, and again, at budget times, we go through these and we go through these and we go through these, we go through these as departments, we go through these then as the board. So, when you do that, then you have that to where you deal with that.
Anybody else got any more questions? We'll try to go through each line item next time.
Yes.
We can, and I can have the departments ready to go on each line item and be ready to tell you what goes on at each line item. I mean, on the, Douglas can do it on the, I'm assuming you want to do that on the expenditures, not on
Yes.
the revenues.
Correct.
Because your revenues are pretty well self-explanatory where that money's going.
I think once we do it once, you won't ever have to do it again, at least with us.
And then we go through, you know, each line item on where that's at and why that is.
You try to cover all of it? We're gonna do like half of it. Yeah.
Yeah, not all at one time.
Okay, so, but at the next budget, your next budget meeting, which is budget workshop.
Just the next meeting, I've got a ball game that got rescheduled at 8 o'clock, so I'll have to leave around
Your
7:15.
next budget meeting on the 2nd.
They're making up games.
Jot down questions and try to cover yours first.
And we get them done, and we go from there. And then, okay, so the 2nd, all right, which line items do you want to, and Douglas, write this down or jot this down too, and I'll.
Should we just start at the beginning?
You want to start at the beginning and just work your way from 71,100, how far do you want to go down?
Well, I don't know how long was it gonna take. I've never done that, so.
Just have to go far as we can with a reasonable amount of
Some
time.
people not long, some people more, I mean,
Like longer, so not long.
and then, you know, you're looking at,
Yeah.
To see how far we can get.
Well, no, he's trying to get people here. He
well, I
needs
need
to
to
know
know
who to
which
have.
people,
Well, I don't know.
You'll never run down here. Douglas gave me a copy of every check Kane County School System wrote one year. And I got through maybe 100 of them. Gave up, it was like, I forgot how many were there, I still got them.
it's a nice stack.
Oh, it was phenomenal. I was just.
I don't know, Mr. Curtis, how long do you think it's gonna take?
Well, you know, I've been, on time wise, I've been budgeting about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'll start losing you at about 8:30 if we start at, you know, start at 6:30, but we start at 6, I think, you know, going to 8:30 is plenty.
I do too.
And I think you can get through quite a bit, but I mean, just looking at what I'm looking right here, I'm thinking we could probably get down. Julie, you think we can get through special ed? Your two
Sure, put
portions
me
of
on the
special
hot
ed,
seat
I'm looking at
first.
71,200 and
You
72,
be on the hot
220.
seat.
And then Douglas will need to be here to
Help.
referee.
No, just to help guide me through, because I will be,
This is Julie's first time going through a budget
I'm learning a
situation.
budget as well,
There you
so,
go. So it'll be just as good for you.
yes, ma'am.
And I don't think it'll have to be like it was in the beginning when we got on.
When you had the PowerPoints and all
No,
this going on.
just-
You just want to know,
I wanna know
these are
what
the
this,
numbers that you've spent, and that's, and you know, and that's what happens,
Okay.
you know, and that's good for me, good for all of us, I think.
well, I mean, when you gave us this, we asked you what the career letter program was. We didn't know.
Because you didn't know what career
Right.
letter was.
But it won't take long.
Okay. What's that?
Did the Laura Alexander stuff like that?
Yes, that's correct. Laura Alexander back in the 1970s. In the early 1980s, they zonked it by, I mean, when Marcia, I've been out here.
They're still paying you.
I know, but I mean, they still,
But they stopped.
the career ladder
Yeah,
portion of
goodness.
that stopped back in,
Julie probably, and Bonnie and I probably get it, nobody else
Yeah.
probably, teachers in this room.
I'm
And I'm
on
only.
career ladder one. I mean, that's like career ladder one. And they,
Because
all
they
the
stopped
time I
it.
got ready for two, they stopped it. And that was probably,
In the
1990.
I'm the
1990?
only one, I think, still in the school system.
No, I started here in Tennessee in 95. So, and I got.
And you got career ladder one.
So it had to have been. 90s.
but yeah, I think we can start going through those. And then Douglas can help us too on, you know, like the physical services line items, you know, those are pretty well done now. You know what you're going to spend out. You know what you're going to contribute, and you know what you're going to spend out. That'll be a little bit less this time because that's handled by the finance office. But I mean, most of the fact, office of the principal, look at the principals, and this is how much principals bring in. This is what, you know, most we can all do that. And then just have Douglas and go line item by line item. I mean, and then some of it may not take, you know, educational assistants, like you say. Well, how many educational assistants do we have? And then you look at that and you see which educational assistants does that include? Well, it doesn't include special education assistants. It includes just your regular assistants for
Yeah, let's do
your
that.
schools. And then I'll have principals here too. They can, and if we get these ball games over with, three principals can be with us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Now, your next one though, that may be interrupting to that elementary schedule on the tournament schedule on the, is that, Derek, you got that?
I don't have-
Wade, you got that,
I don't have-
elementary tournament schedule? You don't?
Not yet.
Okay.
They're not old enough.
No, it's in March. It's in March.
They're
They're about
8 and
ready.
6.
They're about through with their regular season. They're fixing to go in the tournament.
We got another week.
I
I
never
never
heard
heard say.
They have been trying to reschedule.
But I don't know when they.
So that's what
Any
we're
principal
doing.
on, I don't see any principals on. Stephanie,
He was on.
Stephanie,
Was on there.
and Angela Cossey's on there, see her. Stephanie, can you unmute there? Are you there?
Here's the current schedule, but I think this is.
Mr. Curtis,
Where's
Connie.
Connie? I'm sorry, Connie, go ahead. I didn't see you.
It's okay. It's next week. We don't have the brackets yet. You know, we're making up games this week because of the snow last week, so.
Actually, they won't even have a bracket.
But it's on the schedule for next week, but we're just,
Okay, so that's the week of March the 1st, so your next budget meeting is March the 2nd, so you may have been, and some of the principals may be in elementary ball games on that March 2nd.
I apologize, Mr. Curtis, it's Stephanie. I had stepped away. On the original schedule, the games are supposed to be played on the 1st, 4th, and 6th. So Monday, Thursday, and Saturday.
Okay, so Tuesday, y'all be fine principals to be with us at that budget meeting on March the 2nd, is that correct?
yes,
If we go by that schedule, is that correct, Connie?
yes.
Okay, I think we got principal consistency there. Thank you, principals. I appreciate you. See you morning at 10.
Anything else you want to ask tonight?
No.
Mr. Chairman,
What did you say, Monday?
members of the board,
Monday,
Thursday.
Thursday, and Saturday.
When's our next budget workshop?
Next week, Tuesday.
okay, we'll go through that.
Tuesday.
Got that.
Okay, and we're gonna do one after the regular meeting
We got
on
like
the
24th at night.
lunch tonight, but after the regular workshop.
No, you.
We're doing a budget meeting that night?
After I just penciled in, we might do one afterwards,
Okay.
after the board meeting. And then another one, the next one is the 24th. It's a Wednesday night, I know, but